Welcome to another discussion here at the SDG Live Studio. We're here in Davos during the World Economic Forum. Thanks to the UN Foundation and GSMA. You can see it right behind us in our little mini studio here. And what we're doing, if you've listened to some of the other things we've done, we pull a couple of folks that are here for the Economic Forum, and we talk about some really fun stuff. This time we're talking about the circular economy and the SDGs and how those two come together. And the two folks that we're able to speak with is Auken, co-chair of the Circulars, also a YGL here at the Economic Forum. She can describe what that is. She definitely understands the conversations that happen here. We also have the winner of the 2018 Circulars People Choice Award. You're going to find out what that is shortly, by the way. Just stick around. Vajipay from Banyan Nation. Also an interesting name. Let's start first off. What do you do, Ida?
Well, I'm actually here to promote circular economy to a lot of companies and leaders all around, to tell them that the circular economy has many of the solutions that are needed to reach the SDGs.
What's a circular economy?
So circular economy means to take all of the materials and resources that we have, like concrete, steel, metals, plastics, and make sure that they are used again and again. We are actually 7 billion people on the planet, and we all want, computers, cars, all the goods, but we don't have materials enough. So unless we stop, just losing them, burning them, and instead circulating, there will not be enough for everyone. There will not be enough.
Okay. And so then you have this People's Choice Award at the Circulars, right? You won. Tell us what you do, and then you can tell me how you were chosen or what the award is.
Absolutely. Firstly, I think the Circulars is a great opportunity for innovations coming out of India. And I don't just represent Banyan Nation as a company, but the entire informal sector and the plastics recycling industry. It's a big honor for us, and it is giving us a global voice. And what we do in India is we're taking a full value chain approach to solving the problem of plastic pollution. Now, in India, there's two huge challenges. One is the materials themselves are collected by the informal sector, millions of people, and the chain is highly fragmented. You need to consolidate that value chain. The second problem is the quality of recycling itself is extremely bad. And as a result, big brands today shy away from using recycled plastic for mainstream applications.
It's not pure enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah, and the chain, traceability on the chain is questionable. So what Banyan Nation has done is, firstly, it's developed a technology platform to integrate thousands of informal recyclers into the supply chain, to consolidate the materials and to scale up the volumes. That's number one. So we've developed a data intelligence platform. The second thing we've done is to develop cleaning technologies that make recycled plastic as close to virgin plastic as possible. And that solves both the big problems. And today we work with big automotive companies.
Why did you win the award? And what is the award? The two of you, by the way, it's just not formal, just just talk.
Well, so the award is basically something we started 5 years ago to honor all of the new inventions and all of the creativity around. And we have
and the boldness.
And the boldness. And now it's, it started out with smaller companies. Now we are actually awarding IKEA and Philips and very big companies that are delivering. But we also have a People's Choice where we let everybody vote. We have 10,000 vote to actually say who are the winners. And it's a very compelling stories that people understand right away. And I think Banyan Nation just beat them all because it's a very, very strong case that you have.
How many votes, if you don't mind? Is that the public? Can you?
So we opened the votes, and we had over 10,000 votes coming in for this award show, and they took quite a big part.
Do you know how many?
I don't know personally.
We'll say a lot.
A lot, yeah. But I think this is so important. I think the voting system that you guys have created, because you know what happened. So many people in India and across the world are so passionate about the cause of plastic recycling that they actually followed us and they voted for us, which tells us that this is an idea whose time has come, which is not only just brands and companies and countries, but I think citizens are also getting engaged in sustainable manufacturing and consumption.
And plastics pollution is actually something that are destroying our oceans. So if you look at oceans in 2050, there will be more plastics in the oceans than fish. So we really see plastic as something that is a global problem, and it's lost out of the value chain all around the world, but especially in developing economies, of course. So solutions like this can show every other country that it's possible.
And an old stat, and I don't know, you correct me, both of you, is it 3 billion plastic bags coming out of China every day? It's That's what I had heard at one point.
I don't have that stat, but it sounds
a lot.
It was look. I mean, we all use plastic bags as an example of it. Okay, let's jump back up to the 50,000 foot level for a second. So, what have you heard relevant to the circular economy? What you do at Banyan Nation at the Economic Forum so far this year, within the last 48 hours, that has really kind of piqued your interest based on circular economy?
Well, I've heard about some technologies where you use AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to actually get the sorting going, the plastic sorting or the waste sorting. So we have a lot of places around the world where you try to sort plastics and metals and all of these things. But if you actually, on top of that, you don't have to build a new plastic waste sorting plant, put robotics with AI and machine learning. They can learn how to sort the waste, and every time you teach them something, they will recognize it. So a problem for me as a politician, if I want to set high standards and say, come on, Denmark.
Member of Parliament in Denmark, for folks that don't know.
And former minister, and I wanted to have very progressive standards on waste sorting. But my bureaucrats or civil servants would tell me, oh, it's too difficult, you know, it's going to be too expensive, it cannot even technically be done. But now I come home, you know, with like, it's there, you know, let's do it.
Somebody else has already done it or doing it.
And it can be retrofitted. We don't have to build whole new
Are those
plants.
robotics out there right now?
They're out there. It was one of our winners in the SME category that actually have developed this robotics.
Yeah, that's good. You should toot your horn on these things,
I
by the
do,
way. You
so-
should. For you, what have you heard here that's kind of like, wow?
Yeah, hope. I think I now go back with renewed vigor. Yesterday, I was speaking to the CEO of Philips, Mr. Franz, and basically, more and more companies are adopting a circular economy model, a closed-loop approach, which means that they have goals, set themselves goals, whereby all their packaging, all their products by 2025 are going to be using recycled plastic. Now, the most important thing that we want to touch upon as a company is, first of all, we want to mainline the use of recycled plastic. Recycled plastic use shouldn't be just a novelty where you see, oh, there's some cool thing happening. It should be the norm. And once that happens, we'll be able to create a market for it. And then once the market is created, we'll be able to generate revenues and then push the profits down the value chain.
And maybe add that the next step will be that we will actually have maybe even global guidelines on what types of plastics could be used and how you can market, so it's easier to sort, how you can mix it up. So we actually already from the design of the products have some standards for how to use plastic. Because otherwise we're not going to solve the problem. We're just sort of trying to close what's already there instead of creating a new system.
Tell me what a conversation you had that was like, oh, that was really good. Don't spend long describing it. Give me 15 seconds about a conversation you've had so far. God, I'd like that one.
Well, I had a conversation with two of the largest CEOs that basically told me, we are ready to move. We're actually waiting for you guys, for the politicians. And what we often find with business is that if we want to push something, business push backwards, especially if it's something to do with environment, sustainability. We've come from a history where business would often say, don't do regulation,
but do you believe
don't do standards. I believe them. And I see them engage in really serious thought work, coming out with recommendations for instance, what the EU Commission should do on plastics. And that's not a small thing to move from, you know, just create a level playing field and then get out of the way, to say, you know, guys, you have to lead us. Tell us where we're going.
I kind of agree with that. I think the same conversations, right? Big CEOs today saying that sustainability is a core business strategy. And that's like the big message here. And only if the push comes from private sector, because they employ the most number of people, they create the wealth. So policy and government is important, but equally important is the large companies embracing the need for circularity and like saying that this is how we're going to support industries. There's one more conversation I think it's important, which is collaborative pricing. In the sense that today what happens is plastics industry is totally dependent on the vagaries of crude oil price movements. Now, crude oil prices fall down, plastics prices fall down, and then all the recycling companies go out of business. But I feel that a couple of conversations big companies are coming and saying, you know what, for the next 5 years.
And for those who don't know, because plastics are petrochemical products, some of the additives and the byproducts of refining, you get plastic.
Absolutely.
Right.
And some of the companies are saying, you know what, for the next 5 years, we're going to work with you guys on a collaborative pricing to make sure you guys don't lose money and don't die, basically, right? I mean, so that is how you catalyze an entire industry to create change.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to quote you on this because you said this in a closed room, but you basically said if we can survive 3-4 more years, this is going to be completely market-based. We're going to have the best solution. It's going to be much cheaper to use recycled plastics than it's going to be to pull oil out of the ground and turn it into a plastic. And I think messages like that, you know, it's already almost there, but we know, we've seen it from renewable energy, that now renewable solar and wind are much cheaper than oil and gas and coal. You know, that's going to happen in plastics too. And what I find very interesting here is that we've worked with industry for a while for circular economy. This year, it's been the investors. They've really come clear this time, this is where we want to put our money.
Why?
Because, you know, if you
what was a cultural shift?
So if you look at Gen X, they're going to say, you know, of course I want to have my money, you know, pay off whatever I invest in, but maybe a margin of 9% is fine, and the last 4 go into really creating purpose or doing good things instead of, you know, me investing in stuff that basically makes the world a worse place. So there's a whole new idea of, you know, it's okay to lower the margins a little bit in order to actually have purpose, because otherwise you're going to get hit by regulation, by a public that's going to go against you. There's a lot of insecurities if you don't invest sustainably.
Yeah, it makes economic sense. I think that's the reason why investors are shifting. This is the way to do business going forward. You need to look at the lifetime value of commodities. You don't take just a myopic 6-month view, earnings per share, or like a 1-year view on these. Basically, as materials become more and more scarce, particularly in plastics, and I think this is the way to go. Over the lifetime, it is cheaper to use recycled plastic and renewable energy. And,
and I don't think this will take...
Wait. So let's say I agree with both of what you're saying here. And I've got to convince this CEO or this board member, right? And they're skeptical. Give me your money sentence.
Sure.
Give me your money 15 seconds, both of you, that gets them over that, because they're critical of this.
Sure, absolutely. Every single piece of packaging or product you've made could be recycled 7 times over. The same material could be used 6 times or 7 times over instead of actually using it 1 time and buying 7 times virgin plastic. So which means that 7x times the cost of virgin plastic. And in this case, it's the same material. You're just using it 7 times. You're only paying the cost of processing, really. So
okay, your time's up.
Yeah. And you can see big beverages companies setting up recycling systems themselves just because of that.
But what's your money?
But mine is political. You know, the plastics agenda is the fastest growing political agenda after climate change I've seen. So this is going to be regulated, or this is going to become a huge push. So unless you come to my side, you know, you're in a big risk of actually getting hit or being, you know, pulled after a wagon instead of leading it.
Being hit by Ida herself, probably.
Actually, Ida, $80 to $100 billion of economic value is lost each year. And just in India, we estimate that $2 to $3 billion is lost in economic value just in plastics alone by not using recycled material and pulling out virgin material.
What is the experience for those who are decision makers that often gets them to understand what you're doing, the two of you? Because, you know, I've talked about words, but now there's an experience that brings them over. Is it bringing them to one of your factories? Is it taking them to one of your winners, if you will?
Yeah, for me, it's been the cases themselves that's convinced people. And it's actually the thought of circular economy comes from cradle to cradle, which is a more philosophical idea. This was the concrete idea. It's been calculated by people like McKinsey and Accenture, and it speaks suddenly to ministers of finance. So here we are with something that's environmentally and socially really makes sense, but the economy is just there too. And it convinces ministers of finance too.
Oh. For us, it has always been economic, right? In the sense that this is cheaper, right? And we want to bring in a paradigm shift in that thought process.
No, what's the experience? What's the experience that you take somebody that's skeptical and what is it that they go through that changes the perspective or evolves it?
This is what we've tried. We've tried that this is the right thing to do. I mean, this is what we tell them. The experience is value chain traceability, quality performance, right? I mean, that is how we convince brands.
Business cases
and telling them, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't make long-term economic sense and if it isn't the right thing to do, if you don't have value chain traceability, that is what big companies look when they use recycled materials, and that's what we give them. And
maybe I can add a last point, which is that the World Economic Forum has taken this agenda so seriously that it's big companies like Unilever, IKEA, Renault, Dell, you name them, that are moving. That's very convincing. And if they don't get convinced, tell them that the Chinese are actually doing this large scale here.
That always works. Give me one number you're watching relevant to this space. Just what's the number? What's the?
So I'm looking for a European growth that could actually look similar to a growth of 7% more if we could turn everything into circular business.
7%.
$1 billion actually in 5 years. If we do this right and we get the right support, we're able to unlock $1 billion economy in recycled plastics in India. That's what we're looking at, which is about 1 million tons of recycled plastic being put in mainstream products and packaging.
How much have you grown in the last year? The circular economy and the number of groups that are involved. How much has that grown? 50%? 100%?
It's hard to say, but the numbers of applications for the award and the quality of the applicants is just gone up radically.
Like 10x.
You know, that's what the Accenture team's doing. I'm just...
Okay. And for you, your business, how's it grown in the last year?
We've unlocked opportunities that never existed before. So, for example...
I need a number. 2x, 3x?
10x.
All right, thank you both. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, but you know how these things work. The time just gets away from us. Ida, as well as Mani, we had a great conversation in the short amount of time we have, and we got to talk about the circular economy and the SDGs and their concepts and what they're doing here at SDG Live in our studios. And if you want to do more on this topic, you can just reach out to both of them on social media. And of course, keep on watching this stuff too. Thanks.